So once we get through development, the script is finally locked as much as possible to the point where we're at a shooting script. And that means I've got my scenes pretty much dialed in. I know my characters are dialed in, my plot, everything's dialed in right now. Doesn't mean I'm not going to make changes, just means the majority of it is ready to go. Now I'm going to go into pre-production. So this is at the phase where we're actually going to start hiring more people. Development could be one person, could be two people, could be five people. It all depends on how big it is, right? But theoretically, you could develop something on your own by yourself on your off hours and get it done. But once we start shifting into pre-production, we're going to need more than one person. So we're going to start needing people. So the first thing that's going to happen is script breakdown. So now we've written the script, right? And we've got, let's say I got 20 scenes in my script. Now I need to break it down. And so what do we mean by breaking down a script? Well, I need to know exactly how many locations I have. How many actors do I have totally? How many actors per scene? Are there certain scenes that have the same actors over and over again? What's the wardrobe that they're wearing? What's the props? Is there any special effects? Is there any stunts? Is there any animals? Is there fire? Is there, you name it, whatever, every aspect of the script, we're going to start breaking it down into categories. And so again, this stuff there's software out there that helps us do it, that makes our life easy. So I don't have to sit there in an Excel spreadsheet and make lists of stuff. I can literally take the script, put it in software, and as I'm reading it, I can take my mouse and highlight things and tag them. So for example, I can say, okay, here's Bob, the actor. So I highlight and say, here's a character, Bob. Okay, I got him. Oh, Bob picks up the phone, a cell phone. Okay, so now I need a cell phone. So I'm going to highlight that and say, well, this is a prop. It's a cell phone. Bob talks on the cell phone to someone. As he's talking, he rushes out of the door and gets in his car and takes off. Okay, well, I need a car. My location is a house with a driveway. I need that car. I need keys. All the little things that I need, I'm going to start tracking with script breakdown. So this can take forever, depending on how big of the project is. So if you're doing a small 2-person shoot, in a hotel or something, well, maybe it's not that big of a deal. But if I'm doing Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter, like we just talked about, well, there are probably hundreds, if not thousands of things that I need to keep track of, because I need to know when we're on location what I need there. And I can't just sit there and look at the script and figure it out right then and there. I want to have a system in play that's going to give me reports about what it is I need for each scene when I'm shooting. So I'm going to break that down in that sense. Next thing I'm going to do is make shot lists, or also known as storyboards. So these things are going to happen in pre-production parallel. So once the script is locked, or working models locked as it's going to be, this is when we start having to hire people. So I'm going to hire a script supervisor. And so his or her job is going to take the script, start breaking it down to all the components of what's inside the script that I need to get. So I need to have a list of props so I can give it to a prop master. I need to have a list of locations so I can give it to a location scout. I need to have my building sets. Okay, well, I need to have a list of what these sets are and what they look like and what the components are going to be that I'm going to give to this set designer. I need to find out how many actors I have and start casting. All this stuff happens from the script. And as that's happening, the director and the DP are going to now take a copy of the script and start going through it and start figuring out what the shot list is. So what I do is, when I'm going to be shooting a script, the first thing I do is I'm going to read it. I'm just going to read it just to get caught up into it, get a feel for it. Once I've done doing that, now I'm going to go back and read it again. And this time I'm going to have like a pen, or preferably a pencil with me. And I'm going to start jotting down shot ideas in the margins or the sides of the script as I'm reading it. And this is where my first round of trying to figure out what this visually is going to look like. Now, I may work with a director who's already done all this, and they already have it dialed in their head exactly what it's going to be like. And then we're just going to kind of communicate and I'm going to translate and try to extract that from their head. That happens sometimes, but a lot of times I'm going to sit there and come up with a shot list, and then I'm going to show it to the director, and then we're going to collaborate together and say, okay, oh, what if we do this? What if we take this shot and this shot and combine it together and do this? This is a whole process of collaboration, because that's, again, I'm sure you're going to realize this now, the whole process of making movies is about collaborating. So my first pass, writing on the sides, preferably with a pencil so that I can erase them and change and do everything on the fly. I don't care about making lists right now on Excel or any of that stuff. I'm just gonna go through it, and as ideas pop in my head, I'm gonna write them out. Very simple. Maybe I'll even sketch an idea on the sides. So eventually, between that or the director or both of us together, we're gonna start coming up with shot lists for each scene. How many shots do we think we need to pull this off? Well, how many, what do we need? What depends on the scene. Maybe some scenes only need one shot, right? One long take. Remember, we talked about Hitchcock, right? And we talked about Citizen Kane. Remember that opening scene we broke down was one shot? A scene could be one shot. Or maybe it's like Psycho, where it's 50 takes, edits, right? So 50 shots I need. This is all going to depend on what it is, how we're trying to tell the story. And this is where the discussing with the director, between the both of us, we're going to come up with what we think the pacing, what we think the shot list is going to be. So once that's kind of ironed out, it could go next to storyboards, which means we're going to sketch out these drawings, or no, I'm sorry, take these shot lists and sketch them out into drawings so that we can visually see what we think is going on here. And we're going to talk a lot about storyboards in the coming weeks when we get into that section. But for now, my point is storyboards can serve two functions. The first obvious function is going to be visualizing what these shots are. So it's, you're like, well, why do I need that? Why do I care about storyboards? I've got a list of shots here. It's all I need, right? Not really, because I could go up to you and go, hey, Jeremiah, I want you to frame the camera up to a close-up. Is that enough information to do exactly what's in my head?
No, I'd be asking, well, in what particular area you want me to get a close up on?
Right. So storyboards can really help define, not just for the director and the DP, but the camera crew, or the art department. Everybody can now see, well, here's the shots we're going to do for this scene. And so it's really important to make storyboards, and we're actually going to do them in this class to be able to pull off. And what the point of the storyboard is to share your vision. The worst experience for me is working with a director who can't articulate what they want. They're like, well, I just want this, the camera starts off like this, and then it swoops around like this and turns into a shot like that. And then from there, it drops down and goes back to here. Me hearing that, I'm like, I think you mean you want to be on a crane that comes down and trucks in and does a reveal. Oh, yeah, that's what I want. So we could play this game with, director and DP and crew of name that shot, right? And guessing what the shots are. Or I could have a storyboard made and show exactly what's going on. So storyboards can, again, this is the first use of storyboards, getting your idea across. They could be anything from a simple napkin drawing, which I've done plenty of times. They could be more elaborate storyboards that have been drawn out. They could be photographs where we go to the locations and take pictures with people and frame up the shots. It could be completely computer generated storyboards, or we could hire a storyboard artist to draw them up for us. Doesn't matter which way you do it. It's just about getting that information across. That's important. But all good movies are going to storyboard. And, we try to as much as possible, even on TV shows, but sometimes we don't have the luxury. But whenever you're doing something, if you have the opportunity to storyboard, block it out, you want to do that. So that's one use of storyboards. Another use of storyboards is in pitching and selling your idea to get money. So a famous anecdote is George Lucas. We're going to go back to George Lucas again, Mr. Star Wars. When he was developing Star Wars, he hired an artist, I think Ralph McQueen. This guy was a really good architectural artist. and he only hired him to do like a handful, like maybe 20 storyboards, but he completely elaborately drew these storyboards so that you could get a feeling about what George Lucas was trying to do. So when he went into those pitch sessions trying to sell his movie to the studios, instead of just having a script and the shot ideas and and the outline, he also showed them these incredibly elaborate paintings and drawings of what his world was going to look like, the amount of detail was going to be in there. And that, in my opinion, is what got him to make that movie. That's where he got the green light, because people saw what his vision was, not just on here's the sketch on a piece of paper, but massive paintings that just showed this world that nobody's seen before. And he got his film made because of that. So lots of people do that. I think in the Matrix, the Wachowski brothers or sisters, they're sisters now, they had artists completely conceptualize their the Matrix in a comic book fashion to help sell the idea. So the storyboards can function two different ways. They can be a tool for you to help pitch your idea and sell it. But that means that the storyboards really have to look more like artwork and not necessarily just function to get ideas across about shots. Or they can be just to communicate shots among the crew. Every great director, filmmaker is going to do some form of storyboards. Now, again, we're talking about documentary work, we're talking about reality TV, some off-the-cuff stuff. Well, yeah, maybe the storyboards are more of loose outlines of what's going to happen and not more like the shot drawing, more like blocking diagrams than necessarily storyboards. But they're a great tool to use, and that's why we're actually going to do them in our first assignment, because I want you guys to understand how important they are and how they're a great communication tool. Okay, so scripts being broken down. This is all happening in parallel. Shot lists are being created by the DP and the director. Storyboards, we could be hiring a storyboard artist who's making these storyboards for it. So pretty much script breakdown has to start first. So once that's happening, then shot list starts happening. So once we've got the locations broken down from the script, we're going to hand it over to scouting. So tech scouting and location scouting is going to happen. So in bigger productions, there's somebody's job to do location scouting. So for example, when I was shooting 1,000 Ways to Die, we had a department whose job it was to find locations for us. And every Monday morning, Mondays we didn't shoot, we would have our meeting, and they were till noon, from 7 a.m. to noon. And then at noon, we'd get into a van and we would go with the location scout, and they would drive us around town for the rest of the day and show us potential locations to shoot. So we get a list of locations from the script breakdown. And then these people, the scouts, are going to find locations they think are going to fit with what we're trying to accomplish. And then we're going to go and look at them. And we're either going to say, yeah, this one's awesome, or like, show me another location. So usually, like for one scene, we may go to 3 different locations and look, and then pick the one we think is going to be the best. And sometimes that may be because we may pick a location because it's visually the best one, or maybe there's certain things about it that don't practically work. Like there's no parking for crew, or we can't get their trucks in there, or there's no room to shoot. There's multiple reasons why we may not shoot at someplace, even if it looks like the right place. So location scouting and tech scouting can be 2 separate things. When we did 1,000 Ways, we combined them together because our budget was a lot tighter. So location scouting is basically, we're going to go and look for locations and see what's going to potentially work. And usually that's going to be the director, producer, location scout, and sometimes the DP. Usually it should be the DP at first. Once those locations are picked, and again, you want to think about, it could be like, oh, I'm just going around town here to look at stuff, but it could be a bigger movie. Like think like a James Bond movie where they shoot in multiple locations around the country or the planet, right? So we may have a month of location scouting where these key people are going to be flown around the planet to go look at these locations and see if they're going to work physically. I like your little jet in the corner. That's cool. So that happens. And then once the locations are determined and decided upon, next comes tech scouting. Now, like I said, in 1,000 Ways to Die, we combined the two because we didn't have time. But in a big production movie, we're going to do tech scout. So what's tech scout? Well, that's when I'm going to bring the rest of the heads of the department. So maybe it was just me, the director, producers, and the location scouts doing the original location scouting. But now I'm going to bring the gaffer. I'm going to bring the main people that are going to be in charge of the departments. We're all going to come to the location and look at it and see what we need. So for example, lighting department, well, they're going to look and see, well, do we need generators? Do we need, what type of lights do we need? How much cable power cable do I need to bring? Where can I park the truck? So production is going to go, well, where's the safe place out of shot to park the truck so we don't have to move them twice in a day because we're going to reverse angle? Where are we going to have craft service? Where are the bathrooms going to be? Do we have bathrooms here? Do we have access to them? Do we need to bring our own bathrooms? Because people got to pee and poop, right? So can't have a bunch of people going like this all day. I got to go to the bathroom. And they can't go in the woods because how many people are going to want to do that? Or not to mention how messy that's going to be. So we don't want to do that stuff. So we have to start thinking about all this stuff. If we're on location, someplace out of LA or somewhere, well, where's the nearest hotel they're going to put everybody up? So tech scouting is going to figure out all those answers to the questions. So, we may, decide, well, we can't shoot night scene here because we have no place to put the cranes with the lights. We can't get our lights high enough. Okay, well, this means we can't work here. We have to reverse the angle or do something different. But basically, we're going to decide on locations, and then we're going to look at all the technical aspects of the locations to decide what we need to bring or do or rent or whatever to pull this off. What we're not going to do is just say, all right, the location guys said that we've got a cool location here at ELAC, right, in the front by the pool. We're just going to just do it and not think about it. Because if we get there and realize, oh, well, there's no power or we don't have access to the roof, all these things we might have thought we needed, then guess what's going to happen? Our production is going to grind to a halt. And we've already spent the money there to pay for the location that we can't just throw it away and move on. And not to mention our schedule is going to fall apart. So it's super important to find the locations that work for your script, but then make sure those locations technically work for everybody, whether it's lighting, sound. What if you're, if you're doing intricate dialogue and the location they decide to do is right next to LAX? Can you imagine how horrible your audio is going to be? Well, that means, well, if I definitely want to shoot there, well, I better start allocating money for ADR, which is automatic dialogue replacement later on, because none of the audio is going to be usable. So tech scouting, super important in pre-production. So once this is all figured out, once I know my script's broken down, I got my shot list, I have to figure out how many shots per scene I need to shoot. Remember, some may have 1 shot, some may have 20 or 70 shots. It all depends on what we agree upon. I figure out the locations. Where are they? Are they local to each other? Do we have to get on an airplane? Do we have to drive across the country? Now I could start scheduling. So scheduling is the big ticket item here. This is what makes or breaks your film. Here's the first question. Once I break my script down and do all this stuff, am I going to shoot everything sequentially in order?
I don't think so.
Probably not.
Why not? Why would I not do that? Wouldn't it make sense?
Well, if one shot is or a few shots are supposed to be on set and then another one's on location, if it went in order, you would have to go back and forth, and I don't think that would be very time efficient. You might as well just shoot all of the ones that are on set first and then go to the on locations shots.
Yes. So scheduling is the art of making your shoot as efficient as humanly possible. So that means instamatically we are not shooting in order, because just like you said, we may have scene 1 in a hotel, scene 2 is on a street, scene 3 is back in the hotel, scene 4 is on the street, scene 5 is someplace else. I don't want to jump back and forth and keep it sequential. So now I'm going to shoot all the shots that are taking place in that hotel room, all the scenes in that hotel room at once. And so when we break this, so when I break the script down, one of the things I'm doing is going to break the locations down. And then I'm going to, each location's going to have an individual tag. So I can say, okay, well, it makes sense for us to go shoot at the hotel first because of whatever reason. So give me all the list of all the scenes that are going to take place there. Then I've got them in that order and I can start building my schedule. So sometimes scheduling is about locations, what location we're at. Sometimes scheduling is about travel, because if we've got 3 locations, one starts in LA, the next one's going to be Pittsburgh, and then finally we're, I don't know, in New York. Maybe I want to do the trips in order of how we get there. That could be one reason. Another reason could be scheduling. What if I got a B or A list actor to work on my film who agrees to shoot, but says, you know what, I can only give you 4 days of my time and then I'm out of here. You have to get all my scenes shot out 4 days. But that's an A-list actor or B-level actor that is going to help me sell my movie because it's a known face, right, in my film. So I may reshape my part of my schedule around that actor's availability to be able to get that person shot out and move on. So there's lots of stuff like that. What if I have scenes that the director and the DP said we need to have a techno crane for these shots because it's important for the movie. The techno crane rental is about $15,000 a day, and there's a delivery fee and a setup fee, and not to mention I got to bring those crew members in from LA to who specifically operate that thing. So maybe I want to shoot out all the scenes that use the techno crane because I want to save money. So there's a complex, multiple mixture of different reasons why you may schedule something, and not necessarily about where we are at what particular day. There's a huge amount, and this is where a great line producer who's an AD, specifically the AD whose job it is to schedule everything out, make or break the film. If I got the right people who know about scheduling properly and know how to coordinate everything, then I have a better chance of success. And that's where a lot of times where I may be a first-time filmmaker, it may be in my best interest to spend some money on hiring a couple people for scheduling that really are good at this so that I can get my production as efficient as possible. Because the name of the game here is once this train starts rolling, and it's going to start rolling when we go into production, what I don't want to do is stop the train from rolling. Every time I stop the train from rolling, it costs more money to get it back up to speed and get everybody going. So you want to think of it that way. Think of it as a big train with a lot of momentum, right? Once it gets going, we don't want to stop it. And so anytime the schedule derails and doesn't fit quite right, or isn't the most efficient, fluent schedule as possible, it's gonna slow down my train. And once it starts slowing down, then I'm burning money, and I don't want to do that. So scheduling is the name of the game. This is where you make money or you lose money in your production. If you not schedule properly, you're going to lose lots of money. And again, this is like something we'll get to dabble with in our projects a little bit, but in the real world, this is where you want your most experienced people. The line producer, these are the people that you hire for these jobs that have the most experience of anybody, because they're the ones who are going to deliver you the show or the movie without going over budget. So really important scheduling. And again, I'm just kind of brushing over the surface of it, but it's really complicated. And I've been amazed by working with ADs who realize all these little intricate details and things that are interacting and connecting with each other that they take into account when they're creating their schedule. And I do my best job as ever to keep my world contributing to the schedule. So one of the things you want to think about is how long does it take to set up a scene, right? That's going to affect the schedule, because once we have a legit schedule going, it's not just, oh, here's the scenes we're going to shoot this day. Each scene should be broken down to exactly how long it should take to shoot, almost down to the shot, but not quite. And so if they ask me, hey, how long is it going to take to light? And I'm like, half an hour. They're going to put that down in the schedule saying, well, half an hour lighting and then shoot. But what if I'm wrong and it really takes 45 minutes per setup to shoot, just to light before I shoot? Well, if I've got 10 setups that day, let's be simple, make it 5 setups, 5 times 15. Well, that's over an hour of time lost because I didn't account for it and they didn't account for it. So now the schedule is wrong. And we're going to now, if this is the schedule for say 3 weeks of shooting, we're never going to make the end because we've not accounted for that time. So it's not just the producers, the AD and the line producer coordinating the schedule, it's the department heads. I need to know exactly how long it takes to do something in my world. The set designers, set decks, they need to know how long it takes them to do something. How long does it take them to dress a set? They could say, oh, it takes 45 minutes, but what if it takes an hour and a half? And they're wrong. And so the people who this is kind of where we start talking about this idea of being a master of your trade. It's not just about how well, for me, like operating a camera or, focusing and all that stuff. It's also about how long it takes to do something. I need to really know that for sure. Everybody who's in each one of their departments need to know how how long it takes to do something, so that when we make these schedules actually represent real things in the world. Because it all, if you save a day, man, you just saved thousands of dollars. If you add 2 more days, well, you've just cost thousands of dollars. And when we start looking in the world of super tight independent budgets, they're made or broken by the schedule. And a lot of times that's when you get into a position where you're just hammering stuff in through the schedule because you're running out of time. And that's when quality drops, because now everybody's just rushing to get it done, to get through the schedule. So good scheduling that is a balance between giving enough time for everybody to get the job done, but also not wasting a lot of time where we go broke, is the magic number here. It's the magic equation. And that's the hard one. That's the one that you need someone to help you out who has some experience, or you do by trial and error until you get to the point where you really understand it. So we get through scheduling. Now we're going to talk about casting. Now I just threw it in here, but casting can actually go back into development. So if I'm developing a story, let's say I'm doing an independent feature film, and I want to attract people who want to invest in it, one of my best chances of getting some investment money is to get a known actor involved. Now, you might say, well, how is that even possible? Well, it can be, because a lot of times actors may be interested in doing low budget independent movies. Anybody take a guess why?
Are you talking about well-known actors that are currently working, or well-known actors that haven't worked in a while?
Could be all the above. Well, let's talk about well-known actors who aren't working anymore. Maybe they want a chance to reprove themselves, right?
Right. I feel like that makes more sense than the other one.
Well, how about actors, famous actors, who get constantly cast in specific roles?
So an actor who's tired of being typecast?
Maybe, but let's look at let me think of a good one. Jim Carrey. Everybody knows who Jim Carrey is, right?
Yeah.
What's most of his early career, mid-career, what kind of roles did he play? Comedies, right? And yeah, he came from, I can't remember, it was Saturday Night Live. I think it was Saturday Night Live. So he's just cast as a comedian. He plays goofy, wacky, roles that are very, physical, right? He's falling. He does all sorts of weird stuff with his body. Totally made him famous. Got him, made his millions and everything doing that. But for the longest time, he never played any other roles except that. And then I think one of the first films, which was not a big movie, small movie, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I remember that one.
Yeah, I like that one.
So that was the first time he got to play a role that wasn't a comic role. And so I'm going to guess he probably didn't get a ton of money like he normally got in most of his other films, but he got the ability to play something outside of what he's normally cast, to flex his creative muscle, to do something to prove to the world that he could do a serious role or a dramatic role or something completely different. And that's a pretty big deal for a lot of actors. Another one, Robin Williams, right? He's played tons of stuff, right? Remember that? Did anybody remember that movie he played where he played the weird, I think he was a killer or just a perverted guy in the photo booth, 5-hour photo?
24-hour photo, yeah, he was.
That was it, yes.
He was like a pedophile.
Exactly. So Robin Williams took that role, probably didn't get any money for it, but he took that role because it gave him an opportunity to play something that nobody would cast him for. So when you start moving into the world of, okay, I want to do an independent feature, I want to attach some names to it, that's one direction you can go. You could actually write into your script the role for a certain character that you know that they may want to do that type of role. That's not what they normally do. That happens a lot. And yeah, so you're not magically going to get to access to that actor. You still got to network. You still got to play by the Hollywood rules, which means you can't just go hunt down, the actor you want to do and corner them at Starbucks and go, hey, here's my script that I wrote for you, because they're going to think you're a maniac, right? But you could work through the agencies and get that script to them through there. There's plenty of ways to do it. So that's one thing you could do. Another way is actors who are like B actors who are, dare I say the word, past their prime, where they may want another chance at doing something. So I had a friend who made a short film, a dramatic film, and she cast, I can't remember his name, but he was a B-level actor, and his last claim to fame role he played was that robot Bishop on the movie Aliens. Remember the movie Aliens?
Lance
You haven't seen it.
Henriksen.
What's that?
Lance Henriksen,
Yes, I think so.
the actor.
Yeah. So she wrote this really dramatic role about a father, and she got the script to him, and he agreed to play it. And he only was there for like 2 days, 3 days. That's it. Yeah, and that she used that to get her film through some film festivals, because his name was attached to it, and he was a known actor. So there's another example where I can find somebody who's maybe past their prime, write something for them, and get it to them and convince them to be in it. And there, boom, suddenly I got more value for my script. Now my script's more than just a bunch of unknown names in it. So those are definitely things that people try to do all the time. So it doesn't mean that that's a golden given. You're still got to make the connections. You still got to do the work, and you got to have a script that's, solid enough that one of these legit, serious actors is going to, want to do it. And they need to have faith in you that you're going to be able to direct it and pull it off. But these are ways of getting names attached so that you can get some financing happening. So if I'm thinking about writing this script for certain actors, well, I'm going to put that casting thing earlier in development. I'm going to think about who it is I want to write for. So casting may show up there. When we talk about casting here, I'm talking about primarily casting, which means if I've got 20 actors that I need to fill roles, well, I'm going to do the casting process in this pre-production. How long do you think it takes to cast a major, let's say, feature-length film?
5 months.
Could take 5 months, yeah. Could take longer. So that becomes a full-time job, and depending on how many people you go through, actors you go through. So one example I'll give you is we did a short film, horror film, a few years ago, probably more than a few years ago, and we put an ad out for the lead, and we rented a sound stage in Hollywood for the day and shot all these auditions. We had 300 people show up to cast and get through. We didn't get through them all, but we got as many as we could. So that's one day of casting. Bigger movies, they're going to take months, and so they're going to have a casting director who's hired just to do that, just to get through everything, and that could take a good amount of time. So if I'm the director, I can't be spending 24 hours a day or even 10 hours a day in casting unless it's some specific callbacks or something. So I'm going to have people that do it for me. When I was doing Ice Cold Blood last couple seasons, we had people whose job it was to cast, and they would basically videotape them, and then they would send us the highlights of all the people they think were good for the role, and then we would go from that and do a callback. So without that going on in a bigger production, you're not going to be able to get through pre-production without spending a huge amount of time. There's a famous, again, Star Wars. I like to use a lot of Star Wars examples. George Lucas was casting for Star Wars, right? It took him 6 months to cast, and they were trying to find Han Solo, someone to play Han Solo. Harrison Ford at the time was hired by Lucas to help with casting. He was basically the actor that they would play against when they came and cast. And it took forever. And finally, George Lucas realized that Harrison Ford was the best character for Han Solo. And even though he was not initially thought of as an actor for the movie, he hired him for that. But they went through hundreds of people to make that happen. So you don't want to rush casting, because if you rush it, then you may not get the right person. And again, remember, these movies are about us interacting with the cast, right? So if we can't connect to those characters, if the wrong actor is cast for the role, then that's going to definitely affect our production. So casting's happening, and at the same time, production design is happening. So now I've got a production designer who is designing basically the look of what's going to happen, the sets, the locations, what we're doing with location. And also generally, we're just trying to make the foundation, the mold or the pattern of how we're going to do this thing, this whole production. How are we making this happen? We've got 6 weeks to shoot. Okay. How are we dividing that up? What are we doing first? How much time does production designers as a set artist need to build the sets? All that stuff comes into play here. So production's going to happen. So all this stuff kind of happens in parallel. There's not an order here of which happens. It's all happening at the same time. So we have to do that in order to get through pre-production. Now, pre-production could be, how long is pre-production? It just depends on the film. If it's a big, huge movie, Harry Potter, or something where they need to build massive sets and everything, pre-production could be a year. If it's a small independent film, it could be months. It could be weeks. It all depends on what you're trying to accomplish. The bigger the thing you're trying to tackle, the more time you need to do it, the more pre-production you need. So you want to think of it that way. The bigger thing I'm attacking, I'm going to need more time for pre-production. If I've got a small, sweet, simple little thing that I'm doing, I won't need that much pre-production as much as the other ones. So once we get through pre-production and we've got all this stuff, we've got our script breakdown, we've got a shot list, we know where we're shooting, we've got a schedule that works, I've got the cast, I've got the production design happening. Whew. It's a lot of work, man. We haven't even started shooting the movie yet.